Morning. I was just talking to someone about abundance, and it made me realise, there's going to be a time one day when you're going to tell your children or your grandchildren, when I was a kid, there was all the toilet paper we needed. I mean, it wasn't like this nowadays, right? A friend of mine told me that in a local shop they were trying to, excuse me, they're trying to charge 15 quid for a fucking roll of toilet paper. That's wrong. I also remember my dad telling me the first time he ever saw a banana. I've got a bit of a habit of being a bit of a turd polisher, but what else are we going to do at times like this? And I was just reflecting on the fact that when I left school and I moved to London, so that was 1983, squatting was a big thing in London, but and we were all skint. So I remember moving into this squat in the East End of London, and I was telling someone this morning, when I walk in my beautiful, beautiful, lovely North London flat now, I promise you there's not a time that when I press that little white button on the wall and lights come on in my house that I don't appreciate it, because back in the old days you come in and press the button and nothing had happened because the fucking electricity board had come round and ripped all the fuse boxes out again, and we'd have to pay this bloke who, because there were like 500-600 squats in the estates we lived in, there was a bloke who was a theatre technician, and he'd come round in a wetsuit and rubber gloves and Wellington boots, and he'd get stuck into the you bung him 10 quid or something, and he'd get in the fuse box and he'd jam all these wires back, and we'd have electricity for a few more months. So I've never lost my appreciation of running water and electricity. I mean, I don't come from a background of poverty, but I've experienced poverty, and likewise that in those times we were all considered homeless because we were squatters. You were considered no fixed abode because you could be moved on at any minute. So whenever we went and signed on, it was the best time of the week, because we had what was called personal signing, which meant you didn't have to wait for your cheque to come in the post. They give you your cheque, you go up the post office on Jamaica Road down in Rotherhithe, cash it, get 22 quid straight in the newsagent, pack of 20 filterless Camel cigarettes, go in Rose's Cafe, full English breakfast and a cigarette, and then straight up the dealer, eighth of hash. That'd do us for the week. And because we spent all of our money on one fry-up, pack of fags and some drugs, there was nothing left. So what we'd usually do is go and buy a bag of flour, and you make chapatis, right? Flour, water, kind of fills you up. So we lived off flour and water for ages and ages and ages. Those times of deprivation have given me such appreciation of simple things like bananas, right? And we're going to remember these times, and they are awful times, and there's terrible things going on, but fuck me, you're going to feel more alive at the moment, and you remember how you survived. It'll bring out your creativity. It will encourage you to communicate with people. It's already making me reach out to people that I can't be bothered. I'm really lazy with communication. But I think these kind of times, these extreme times, it's when we feel more alive. Grenfell, I felt more alive then. It was a terrible, terrible thing, but there was a sense of community. I went down there. I tried to get involved. 9/11, all right, it was in a different country, but it gave us a sense of unity and togetherness. And when I lived in squats, I felt like I was part of something because we were trying to survive. And abundance isn't the best thing. Abundance is really behind obesity for starters, right? Because we're a species that were kind of, we developed a system of feast and famine. And there's no such thing as famine in the West anymore. We've got food banks, we've got a lot of people who are struggling, but there's not really many people dying of starvation in the West anymore. All we have is abundance. We've got 400 different supermarket brands who will, well, they used to they used to deliver to your door before you had to have a 2-month waiting list. But we've become so accustomed to having so much food all the time, and we don't have an off button, right? So you just keep eating, you keep eating, you keep eating. And I've done a lot of fasting in my lifetime, and it's really, through necessity and through spiritual practice, or whatever you want to call it, give me a different relationship to food. And I appreciate food, but I don't tend to overeat. And honestly, man, don't go buying all this shit in the shops. There'll be enough to go around if we just share it. And if you have to improvise, if you can get a bag of flour, better with a bit of salt or a bit of jam on it. But, we're going to get through this. And these are historic times. And the thing that I'm missing more than anything, and I only realised this yesterday, that's actually causing me the most pain, is not the price of toilet paper or any of the other shit. I don't give a fuck if we're locked up. All that kind of stuff is necessary. We've got to be very, very cautious at times like this. The thing that hurts me the most, it's not even loneliness. I mean, I went to boarding school. I was trained for this shit. I can be away from people I love. I can deal with hardship. But I really, really, really am missing human touch. And I read this amazing thing ages ago. It's got a name for it. It's kangaroo something. I can't remember the details. But babies in intensive care units, apparently, they in general, they would take them out of their incubators or whatever the situation is, and they'll cuddle them for about 20 minutes a day, because what they've noticed is that the mortality rates are much, much lower if you cuddle a baby than if you don't. And that shocked me, because I thought we needed food, water and oxygen to survive, but we don't. We need food, water, oxygen and touch. And I haven't touched another human being, and every day, I live here on my own, but I see clients, and on the whole, at the end of each session, we will hug each other. We don't know each other so well. We shake hands. It's touch. That 2-second touch nourishes me in a way that I hadn't realised how important it was to me. And I feel a strange kind of mixture of grief, sadness, and something akin to hunger in not being able to touch another human being. It's not the same as loneliness. It's like a really primal need for, and it's not about sex, it's not about lust, it's just connection. It's wordless connection, I mean, I guess that goes back forever. Pre-language, we hold each other, especially at times of stress, and that's what's so shocking about this situation. I think I've said this in another post. Times of trauma, times of conflict, times of threat, we group together, and that's our instinct, and we're not allowed to group together. So those of you that I don't know if you're fortunate or unfortunate if you're locked up with your families, depends what the situation is. I really feel for people who've got really high energy little kids who need a lot of entertainment, and you've got to suddenly learn how to be a homeschool teacher for them, and you've got to try and maintain your own business and everything. But wherever it's safe, wherever you can, keep hugging each other, because it's really precious. All right, lots of love. Bye.